My wife's divorced friends convinced her that marriage was slavery, that she needed to set herself free. She took off her ring and hit on a younger guy. That was all I needed, to set myself free. After 8 years of marriage, my wife's best friend got divorced. Suddenly, my wife had a new weekend hobby, girls' nights out every Friday and Saturday. At first, I encouraged it. We both needed space, but the first red flag wasn't the nights out. It was what came home with her. She suddenly started investing in tight dresses, low-cut tops, and heels that could double as weapons. When I complimented her new look, she brushed me off with, "Thanks, I guess." Then came the phone obsession. She'd sit across from me at dinner, scrolling, smiling, a secret smile I hadn't seen in years. When I asked what was so interesting, she'd flip her phone face down. "Nothing important," she'd say. But the real kicker? She stopped wearing her wedding ring. Her excuse? "Rings are just symbols of ownership. I'm not property." Property. We picked out those rings together, saved up for them, cried when we exchanged them. Then one Sunday morning, after she rolled in at 3 a.m. smelling like cologne that wasn't mine, I finally confronted her. "We need to talk about these weekend adventures," I said. "I'm supporting my friends through difficult times," she snapped back. "By staying out until dawn? By coming home reeking of someone else's cologne?" She stood up, eyes cold, like someone I barely recognized. "Maybe I feel like a single woman. When was the last time you made me feel alive?" "I make you feel alive every day," I said. "By choosing to stay married to this version of you." "My friends were right about you," she said, her voice full of venom. "Ah," I replied, "the divorced, bitter friends who can't stand seeing anyone else happy." That Friday, I decided I'd had enough. My buddy Mike and I followed her to a bar called Rhythm and Blues. My wife sat with her so-called heartbroken friends, but they were dressed to kill, scanning the room like predators. When a tall guy approached, she didn't hesitate. She smiled, took his hand, and led him to a corner booth. What I witnessed next destroyed everything. She kissed him, deeply, passionately, like she hadn't kissed me in months. Her hands in his hair, his arms around her waist. "Did you get it all?" I asked Mike. "Video, photos, timestamps, everything," he replied. We followed them to his apartment. 2 hours later, she came out wearing his oversized hoodie, looking satisfied. They shared one last kiss before she drove home. Sunday evening, I waited at the kitchen table with my laptop open. "Good night out?" I asked. "Yeah. Deep conversation about boundaries," she said casually. "Interesting," I replied. "Come have a seat." When she saw the photos, her and Tyler at the bar, entering his apartment, leaving hours later, her face turned pale. "I can explain," she stammered. "I'm sure you can. But first, let me show you the rest." I clicked through every photo, every video, every timestamp. The digital breadcrumbs of her double life laid out like a prosecution exhibit. She sank into a chair, hands shaking. "It's not what it looks like," she whispered. "Really? Because it looks like you've been living a secret life and lying to my face every weekend." "I was confused," she cried. "My friends made me realize how unhappy I was." I showed her the selfie she'd taken with Tyler. "You documented it yourself," I said. "You wanted people to know." She tried every excuse, mistakes, confusion, wanting to fix things. Finally, I asked, "So what did you find exactly?" She looked down. "I felt more alive with him than I have in years with you." There it was. The truth. Finally. "Well," I said, "good news. You're getting complete freedom from this boring, predictable marriage. But I don't want a divorce," she pleaded. "I want to fix this," I laughed. But there was no humor in it. "You spent months destroying our relationship, and now that you're facing consequences, suddenly you want to repair it? It doesn't have to end like this," she begged. "It ended," I said, "the moment you decided Tyler's apartment was more interesting than our bedroom. I'm just making it official. 3 weeks later, I signed the divorce papers. Thanks to my documentation, there was no question about fault. Her lawyer tried to argue for reconciliation, but photos don't lie. And as for Tyler, he dumped her the moment he found out she'd been married the whole time.